Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. With Tony. Woo.
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I am so excited for you to hear from this next guest. She is a sweet, sweet soul and great friend of mine, Amber Lilyestrom. She is a business mentor. She's a clarity catalyst, which I absolutely love that because she really is so good at what she does and being able to help you to understand who you are and where you want to go. And she's also an author and a mom and a wife, and a really great one at that. She has the ability to run a great, thriving business, but also keep really true to her values and very clear on how to raise her daughter and just be a supportive wife. And it's just so incredible to kind of just watch her. Amber, I look up to you so much. So I'm so grateful to have you here. Welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast.
Oh, I love you. Thank you for having me, Tony. I'm so excited and honored to be on your show.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you. So let's have you introduce yourself to the listeners. The first question I always ask my guests is to introduce yourself by sharing who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why you do what you do.
Yeah. So who I am is a 40-year-old person living in a body that's been here for 40 years, but truly like a soul that I think has been here before, and is grateful to get to apply the new learning and lessons and to have the opportunity to see through a different lens and therefore really enjoy the experience of life so much more deeply. Mm-hmm. I am a person who learns quickly and slowly, depending on the circumstances, but has learned how to look through the lens of metaphor and get my learning faster as a result of that, and then learn how to be a translator for others. So truly, I think I was born to be a teacher and to be a guide and to be a seer and of course a seeker, but somebody who can help others perceive things that maybe feel difficult for them to see. And it's my joy and my gift in my work as a business mentor, as you said, a clarity catalyst. I work with conscious creatives and coaches and CEOs who were all something before that. I think that's an important point, right? A lot of us I worked in corporate for 10 years. I taught at a university and ran sport marketing for the University of New Hampshire. And my first job, I did that for a decade. My husband's a former police officer, and now he's retired from that job and he's a podcast producer. And I help so many people who are like in the big job or in some sort of career that was right until it wasn't right. And then it really was about helping them get on their path to purpose and really like in alignment with what their soul is calling them to, so that they could share their work and they could, serve from their gift in a much deeper way. So I love having these deep conversations with people. I come into their life in moments, Tony, when it's sort of like the path in the woods, and I really want to come in the direction of home. It's like a homeward bound kind of feeling. And my work is to walk with people and doing that and living a really abundant, joyful, peace-filled life as a result of that. So, and ultimately the why behind it is, I think for so many of us, we were kind of raised to think that suffering was the only option. And life was really about like avoiding suffering and trying to minimize it. And what I've learned, especially in the last decade of my life, especially after becoming a mom 8 years ago, that it's that suffering is really a choice and it's optional because, you can look at people who have survived through the unthinkable and they are still thriving in their joy. Despite their conditions and circumstances. And so that has been, those folks are master teachers to help us see that, our life is this grand opportunity. And I didn't know that for so long. And so now I'm making up for lost time in many ways and really wanting to help others who are in the place of wanting to just like not miss the moments they can't get a replay on and to live into the truth that these are the days. Like these days right this minute are are it. And so let's try to make them feel the best they can possibly feel and really live the heck out of this beautiful life we've been given.
Yeah, I love it. And your book is called Paddle Home, right? You have more than one book though, right, Amber?
I do. Yeah. Yes. I've written Master Your Money Mind. I co-wrote a book called Quantum Wealth, and then Paddle Home is like my little baby girl. And she came out earlier in 2021. So yeah, my poetry book.
It's so great. And because you mentioned it's all about you're helping people kind of come home to themselves. And so then I had to just kind of shout out that book. So where can people get the book? Because we're going to talk other things, but just right now.
Amazon and Barnes and Noble. All three of them are available at either of those two, wherever you like to buy books. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Very exciting. So, all right. It's funny. I was going to bring this up later, but you kind of shared a little bit now. A lot of people that I know that are in, especially things like teaching or nursing, anything that they kind of really got it during like the pandemic, right? And a lot of the things have shifted for them. So being a teacher during in 2020, 2021 is not the thing that they initially signed up for, right? And so a lot of people that I've been talking to, particularly, like I said, teachers and nurses, they're feeling burnt out. They're feeling like, a few of them have described it as me like they fell out of love with teaching, which I think is so sad, right? And we know it's not their fault, right? It's just the way of the world and how things have changing, and it's literally not what they signed up for. So I guess if you had somebody kind of come to you and say that, would you work with them on changing their mindset in the certain position, or would you work with them on helping them to transition or pivot out?
Well, I think it's such a individually answered question, and I want to say something that I think will hopefully be helpful to anybody that is really resonating, whether you're in a teaching career and you're in any kind of career when you're really feeling like, the bloom is off the rose and I am feeling a little lost and a little frustrated and stuck and like all those emotions, which absolutely come up, I really believe, Tony, that, we're here to get the lessons that we're meant to get along the very like uniquely crafted path that's for us and our soul. And the timing of that is not something we can predict. And so what happens often is, we're in this role of like, I'm going to go be this first grade teacher and I'm going to love it. And then, like life happens and I evolve and I become a parent. And then I realize like my gifts are being used in other ways. Like I'm being called to serve in a different way. And so it's not so much about like being like failing at the thing. And you didn't say this, but I know that oftentimes we can feel like that. Like it's not that you're failing your job or, it's that you've grown out of that box. And if the box doesn't continue to expand with you, then it's only natural that your evolutionary path is going to lead you to something else. And in reality, the way I see it, I think that's a really good thing. I think that it's actually really good for humanity for us to continue to grow and evolve so that the systems have to grow and evolve too. And also just know there are going to be other people that are going to come up and to fill in these roles. And you're not meant to stay in the same place for eternity. We're humans. We're always shifting, right? It's like we wake up each day, we're a different person. Our cells are different. We look different some days, we feel different. And so I think this idea that we're going to be sort of like static and like we're going to make it and we're going to finally like get there is false. And just accepting that life is about this continual expansion process, when you can really just like get on that wave, it changes how you orient yourself to life and to what your work is about and what your gift truly is.
Yeah, I love that. It really is. You are meant to evolve and to change.
Yeah.
And I think you just gave a lot of people a permission slip to explore.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe if you have some tips kind of now, how does one, it's like, okay, I'm not happy here. I am called to do something different. And I know I want to make the change, but I don't even know how to start. I don't even know, what that is. What does that look like? Right. So that unfamiliar place can be quite uncomfortable. And then as a result of that, because there's not a clear path, I find a lot of people then just kind of settle, right?
Yeah.
For what they originally were doing, even though they are being called to do something different. How do you help people kind of tap into that, or any tips to help kind of move them closer to making that shift?
Yeah, well, I think that we have to delineate the piece that feels important to delineate here. And that is callings and ways in which we make an income aren't necessarily always in alignment. Okay. So like your soul's calling and the way that you feel the most alive in your expression, if you will, right? It's not always a match. And there's also nothing wrong with that. Like there are individuals who are like, yeah, I work at a bank and like, it's definitely not like soul fulfilling for me, but I love people and I'm good enough at this job and it's got good pay. And then I like paint or on the weekends or I ride horses, I like live at a barn and I get to be with my horses. And like, that's super fulfilling for me. I have a friend who has a corporate job and she works from home in this corporate job remotely. And she lives, in the woods and has her 2 labs and she is a writer and she loves living life like, making her sourdough bread and stuff and being in her gardens.
Amazing.
And then she makes a really good living at this corporate job. And so she's like, why would I disrupt that? Like it provides my personal provisions in a way that are really exceptional. And it's not disturbing me to some point where I'm like, so I think that that's not the case for everybody, but I want to speak to that. Because
I really appreciate you did. Can we pause there? Because I actually am because I literally, before we started recording this, Amber, I'm like, just so you know, like, I feel like I've been talking a lot about entrepreneurship and like, I don't want to go on that. I don't want to make people, it's okay if you don't want to be an entrepreneur.
That's
like,
right.
It's totally okay as well. And so I'm just thank you for saying that because especially now, because there is a lot of pressure because of like what's going on. And a lot of people are falling into that, which can be a very beautiful thing if that's truly what your heart is called to do. But just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean that you should do it either, or you should do it too. Right. So thank you so much for hitting that point.
Yeah. I mean, there's some folks who are like, I literally am this season of my life, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. I have a friend she's 6 kids. And so she has, 3 of which are triplets. So that's just bonkers. Right. And so she just started working because her youngest is now 2. And so there's like school and childcare and things happening in her life, but she was with them all when they were little. And now she has a job and she works remotely, but she waited, so I just think like, let's normalize, setting our lives up to support ourselves in the ways that work for us. And it doesn't have to be like building this big empire or monetizing your zone of genius or expertise. Like that's literally not for everybody. And for those that it is, like, you're going to know that. So for those that are listening to this and you're in the place of like, yeah, I'm that person though. Like I can feel the tap. I can feel that there's something else that I want to be doing. And I do want to align the way I'm making money with that thing. Right. So I'll answer that question. What I would encourage you to do at the onset here is just like notice what you're being drawn to. Like notice the things that are capturing your attention. And for me, when I was in that phase, I was working in my corporate career and I had started, and we talked about this I think we did this in between, but like I did fitness competitions for a period of time in my 20s, which was just a code for hiding my eating disorder. Like, let's be real of what that was.
Thank you for your transparency.
Yeah, of course. And it really, it really was. And I figured like, if anybody can help me like figure out how to finally get lean, like finally look how I want to look, all of this, it's like these guys. And then also with the asterisk on it, like, and if this doesn't work, then I'm literally a failure. Right. So it was like, I was setting myself up for so much, success with that mentality. But the point is there was a huge gift that came from it because what I saw, Tony, was another way of doing business and another realm of possibility. I noticed the way that my coach had set up her business. And I had always deep down inside, like thought about, I want to be like a coach. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a speaker. But even back then it was like not as popular, of a career path. It was kind of like what? Like a coach? Like, what are you going to coach people on? Life? Like that doesn't even make sense. Right. And so I felt like the judgment and all those things, and definitely didn't tell anybody in my circle that I wanted to do that because I was like an associate athletic director for a Division I school. Like nobody, that would have made no sense that you're like, you want to be a life coach or a business coach? Like, what does that even mean? And how are you going to replace this income that you've spent almost 10 years achieving? Right. So I'm saying these parts of it, you guys, because this is the stuff that plays in our brains when we're at this place. It's very normal to feel like you're a crazy person. But I will also offer that most of the time, the people who are crazy enough to take the action to create something that is life-changing, that's the branding they're going to get from the people that they love, that they just, because ultimately those people want to protect you. But coming back around the bend, I noticed what they were doing. I started taking note. I started looking at it. I started asking questions. I started looking at different business models. I started my own blog, right? I started like building out my personal brand, even when I was still in my job. I actually ended up launching a photography business while I was on maternity leave. And I was doing like portraits. And then ultimately I started doing weddings and stuff. And I did that for probably, I would say about a year. I had that business going. And so in end of 2013, I went back to work after maternity leave. Ani was born in August. I went back to work in December. And I worked up until May of 2014. And that's when I launched my business. And in the background, I had the photography business going. And then I also had my coaching business starting. I didn't start that till about March, April of 2014. And then I gave my notice and then left ultimately and launched my coaching company. So, that's a very short version of it. But I think, follow your curiosity and trust those little nudges and like follow them through. Sign up for a program. That's not going to hurt you to go sign up and learn from somebody or work with a coach or have a conversation about what's coming through for you. Like allow people to support you, allow yourself to be in the company of people who are doing what you think you might want to try, because it's the only way to actually learn it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Follow the people who have been there before, or just ask questions. And a lot of people that have been there before want to share, like you're not bothering them. And if they are, just ask somebody else.
That's right. I mean, there's so many. There's so many out there.
Now. Definitely. So when did you start joining masterminds? Because you've been into some pretty heavy duty masterminds, right? So you've worked with Lewis Howes. You work, obviously we're in the same mentorship together with Chris Harder, but you've known Chris
for 11 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then we're not going to talk, but like, I didn't even know his transformation really until you kind of shared me and you kind of saw it with your own eyes. And it's so cool to kind of see people go from this place of like lack of clarity and uncertainty and no belief in themselves to freaking killing it and now helping other people kill it in this world. Like, it's just so cool. So I would love for you, if you don't mind kind of sharing kind of some big takeaways you've gotten from participating in a mastermind. I know you also host your own. So like, what is it about being around people? So whether it's business or not, just like being around people who get you or who have been where you want to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you just said it right. So like a mastermind is typically a curated group of individuals who share, common goals, and somewhat values, not always the same. And that's good, actually. Like that diversity is good. But there's enough of an overlap where deep connection and growth can happen. And so I joined my first mastermind back in 2015 with a bunch of amazing female entrepreneurs up in Maine. So it was like Kate Northrup, Lisa Fraley, Carrie Montgomery, Laura Thompson Brady, Christina Nooner. So we had this group and we would meet every month, and I would drive up I was like the token New Hampshire girl, and they all are up in Maine, and we would have a session. And, over time it just evolved into us, like not even talking about our businesses and just like crying about life and like eating chips and stuff and making snacks and hugging each other. It was like so beautiful, right? The intimacy of those connections. Yeah. So I had that. And then I joined, I was invited to join Lewis's mastermind in 2017, which was a huge catalyst moment for me because it put me in the room with people who are just doing things at a totally different level.
Yeah.
And it, from a personal brand perspective, it was like that brand affiliation with those individuals, but also like I learned from them. I had them on my podcast. I was on their podcast. Like it was like a huge level up. And I think mostly, Tony, it was like me walking through that door, believing that I belonged there, that my vision was worthy of being in that room was the biggest transformation of all. And And it really changed me in a huge way. And it kind of like fast tracked my growth in my business. And, and so like that first year we ended up having I think it was that year, like a $500,000 year. When we were on track before that, we were like at, half of that, even less. And so it was just, it was really, really cool. It was a huge blessing. I'll always be grateful for Lewis. He challenged me to retire my husband way earlier than I thought I was going to. And he was just like, I thought it was going to be December, January of that year. And he was like, why not July? And it was like May 31st or something. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. And we did it, and so I think like having mentors and guides and people who can just see things with less of like the drama you have with yourself.
Yes.
Like they don't have that. They just see you with clear eyes. This is what I say to my clients all the time. Like, I understand that you have this story about yourself, but that story does not exist for me. That is not my reality. All I see is the best of you and your vision. And I'm going to be here to advocate for you and your vision because that is my job. That's what you've hired me to do. And great news, like, I don't know about all that drama you have with yourself. That's between you and you. And so it's really liberating to recognize, like, oh yeah, right. So she's just like got a pure view of me.
Yeah.
I can leave all that stuff in the back seat.
Yeah, no, it's so cool there's so many things that you shared that I feel like I want to like kind of go back and highlight. So I think one of them is that I think regardless of what level you're at, you still always have your own stuff, right?
Yeah,
like until
totally.
you forget. And what you just described is actually how I felt being in Chris's mastermind this year. Like I knew I was was that saying a big fish in a small pond or small fish in a big pond? That's really
yeah.
So I was like, definitely like barely made it. Like it was like, I was like, who am I to be here? I am not worthy.
I mean, I felt that way walking into Lewis's event too. I was like, this like bumpkin from New Hampshire walking in here with all these cool California people.
Like crazy. But actually the thing that so one of my big insecurities actually being in the mastermind wasn't so much that I wasn't worthy, because I do believe in myself and where I'm going in my vision, but more so I didn't feel like I would be able to contribute because I didn't have a business. I didn't scale yet. Like, so I was a solo entrepreneur. I was a dietitian. This was the first mastermind I did where not everyone was a dietitian, where in the past, everyone was dietitians the masterminds I joined. So everyone was in a different, unique businesses that like, I didn't really have much knowledge about, like, especially like, if anything, I needed most of the people in that room. I needed the people to help with marketing. I needed the people to help me to like get back in touch with, my inner child. Like I needed, a website designer, like all those things, like everything was in the room. Like I needed it, but I didn't feel like I was going to be able to give to that. Right. And so yesterday we had our last group call with everyone. And when a couple people recognized me, I was like, wait, what? Like shocked. I was like, oh my God, I did contribute. I did inspire. Like there was a reason I was here.
It's such an important moment, Tony, for you to receive that. I think, I remember the first time that happened for me and I felt similarly, and was so interesting when we went around when I was in Lewis's mastermind in the second year I was in it, specifically, he did the very similar exercise, and like a lot of people said things. One person was crying and thanking me he's like, you helped me with my daddy issues. Like we were sitting at lunch and we were both like crying at the table. It was like, you don't even understand how it like changed how I like am doing my life, and man, like Tony, that's the most meaningful thing in the world to hear a person say, that you touched my life. And so I love that you were able to get that sort of like full circle moment to celebrate, because you do matter. You matter so much and you're so special.
Oh, thank you. And so are you, because that I was so glad to have met you in that mastermind, and just the concert that you took me to. It was just so
oh my gosh, that was so fun.
But okay, so let's get back on track let's help the listeners with some things. All right. So I guess do you have any like applicable like daily things? Because the other thing I wanted to talk about was kind of, we kind of have our own things in our own way, but I have noticed through entrepreneurship, I've said this before on many podcasts, that in order for my business to grow, I have to do the inner work. I have to do the healing. I have to really love myself more. Like, honestly, that's like the only way, I have to do the hard things. And the more that I accept myself and love myself and am honest with myself, the more the business grows. It's a beautiful thing. With that said, that's hard to do sometimes, right? So what like tangible tips do you have for people to kind of start moving towards living that more of like a heart-centered life, and to really just focus on, healing themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all the things.
Yeah. I mean, I think it starts with just asking yourself, how do I feel in this moment? And then actually listening. So like slowing down enough. And I know you teach this in your work too, like slow down and listen for the answer to your own question. I think we live at warp speed most of the time. And we're truly, like, I would imagine for your listeners, we're shooting from this to that, trying to meet everybody else's needs, trying to, tick off the to-dos and hit the deadlines and make it look good. And I just think, how much of us are we leaving behind, or just, again, I was talking about this on your interview with me, but like disassociating from or denying. The definition of denial is the opposite of truth. And so when you're denying something of yourself, a truth or a feeling that you're having in your physical body, you're living misaligned with the truth. And I think that right there is like what really hits home. It's that remembering that all of you is welcome here. And if you are living a life where that doesn't feel true, first of all, you're not alone, right? But also it's an invitation for you to slow down and actually start asking yourself, like, what would it look like for me to start welcoming all of myself into my life? And that's like a tidal wave of a question to ask, in some seasons. But it also can be like a little quiet whisper of an invitation to maybe light candles at dinner, or to go to bed a little earlier, or to wake up before the family and light a candle and say a little prayer, right? Or do a little journaling, or listen to a podcast episode, or just, stretch. Instead of running on the treadmill, do yoga, like what is that for you? And I think this is the thing, Tony, like we have to learn how to build this muscle. Yeah. And there's no such thing as like a perfect checklist of a perfect daily routine or morning. It just doesn't exist. Every single body is different. Every single person comes to their creativity into their life in a different way. And so my work is about sort of like deschooling people from the ways that we've been conditioned to think that there's like one pathway to success and to a fulfilling life. Because it's just not the truth.
Yeah, I love that so much. And you're so true. I mean, that's exactly what we teach with nutrition, right? It needs to be individualized to you. But even the things like with morning routines, I used to think it needed to look a certain way. Like I don't know if it's like our just human nature. We just tend to like get really rigid with things. Is that like, do you see that all the time? Like, is it just me? I feel like no matter what I do, I somehow get obsessed with it and create rigidity. Like no matter what, whether it's food, exercise, my older version of me, I'll say I'm definitely moving away from that. I still get caught up in it at times though.
Yeah.
But business, like relationships, everything.
I think that we can be creatures of habit, and that's not necessarily a bad thing at all, right? There's comfort in that. But I would say, I think we're really good at being trained to follow someone else's lead or the promise of someone else's success path. And the truth of truth is, and this after having worked with multiple coaches and, just being in different places and spaces, that like what your coach does for themselves is not going to be a 100% translation to what's going to work for you, because your business is unique to you. Like your body is unique to you. Your definition of success and what actually motivates you is unique. And so I think it takes a while to actually accept that as truth for people. It's like we're looking for the shortcut or the secret message or weapon, right? Like, give me the key to success. Tell me what it is. And it doesn't exist. It just doesn't. So it's about how do you root into your version of success? And this might be a great journaling prompt for those who are listening. Like, when was the last time you wrote about what your vision is for your most successful, most fulfilling, most meaningful life? Like, what does that look like? And if you're, I don't want you to go right to the place of like the big dreams, right? Like, dreams are great. But I'm more curious about like, what are some of the words that express how you're going to feel there? Because words have enormous power, and words have an energetic signature on them and a resonance on them. And you know where I'm going with this. This is really about helping you live into the frequency of your most vibrant, joyful life. Like, energetic. How do you feel when you wake up in the morning? Okay, not great. How do you want to feel when you wake up in the morning? And then we start implementing some of these words that you put on your own page. And suddenly they become the medicine that you need to start making these shifts and to say, yeah, you know what? That morning routine it's going to vary because variety for me is exciting. And variety makes me feel like I'm at choice and I have sovereignty. And I need to have that in my life because I was in a relationship where I was being controlled. So anything that is an expression of that feeling feels oppressive to me, and it holds me in the pattern of bondage, which I'm ready to break free from. So sometimes all these teachings and things like that are going to perpetuate old patterns of pain for us. And this is why I'm inviting you to like turn that inside out and start listening to your own whispers. I promise you, you know, it's going to change your life, but hiring a guide that's going to lead you through a feminine process, like lead you through that way, I think we all need it at this point. I think that is the next shift for humanity. Yeah. I think that women coaching men is a shift that needs to happen. I think that we need to step into that. It's not, I have male clients. I have some male clients, and it's not necessarily an easy sell, if you will, in some cases, which is also fascinating. But we're moving out of this paradigm of the patriarchy, Tony. And so oppression and the ways that we hold ourselves in bondage is a reflection of what happens in the world at large, because we're doing it in our kitchen. You know, we're doing it in the bathroom. We're getting ready in the morning. We're doing it on our to-do lists. And until that starts to shift on a personal level, the world is going to continue to march at that same beat. And so every one of us who decides to do that differently is contributing to the greater whole of shift and expansion in that way.
Yeah, like I'm like mind blown right now because somehow you connected a morning routine to oppression and freedom. And I'm just like, this is why people need to work with you, because we know, like, it's like what we teach in our program. Like, it's so much, it's not about the food. Like, it's usually often deeper. Like, the way you feel about the food in the body has like nothing to do with food in your body. But like, wow, just wow. Yeah. So, okay, I'll ask a few questions, but yeah. How do you end up connecting those dots? Like, how do you pull it out of people? I mean, I know one thing you taught me about, first of all, I just need to shout out Amber, because on the last retreat we went to, the mastermind retreat we went to, you taught me about tapping meditation. That is literally like, I don't feel anxious anymore. Like, it's just incredible how that transformed. I was having panic attacks. They're gone. I mean, it might also be because I changed the medication, which I think was causing a lot of it, but it was definitely, you still gave me the tools and the skills. So like that tapping meditation was so powerful for me and saved me from so many panic attacks in those moments when I was just like completely on edge. You also, I think you were asking me, what's your human design? I'm like, what's a human design? What is that? And now I'm like learning all this thing. And I'm like, I learned so much more about myself. Now I'm like, no wonder why I'm always burnt out, because I'm trying to keep up with everybody else in the world.
That's right. Right. Like, crazy generators.
Yeah. So it's just like, how do you I feel like you know your clients better than they know themselves. Like, how do you do that?
I would say that comes across as true. But the reality is they've just locked so much of it up. Yeah. And so my job is just to hold up a mirror, like that's what great mentors do. That's what my great mentors have done in my life. It's not, they didn't come in and create anything for me. They just held the mirror up for me to see the whole truth, not just like a fragmented version of it that felt convenient for me so that I could keep my old stories that held me back. And so sometimes that is a painful process, because you have to admit, like, oh, I've been the oppressor of myself. Like, I have been doing that. And it's heartbreaking when you recognize that, in a really deep way, but it's also simultaneously incredibly liberating. And it's also a process, because a lot of us don't know how to exist in the world and in these bodies and in these sacred homes without those patterns of oppression and dissociation and punishment. And so I have so much compassion for people who are going through that process, because I've gone through it myself, intimately. And I've been at this work now for I was in therapy as a 5-year-old, as a survivor of abuse as a really young kid. And so my whole life I've been in a healing journey and a healing process. And, so I think that's the heartbeat of it there, Tony, and I think for us to start, it's just like, pay attention to how you feel and just be willing to be honest about it. It's the doorway, right? It's like, I went to therapy when I was 29, officially. Like I've been to many therapy sessions and appointments, but I went to work with someone who specialized in eating disorders because I knew that somehow I knew in my 30s I was going to be the mother of a daughter. And I was not willing to pass that baton on to her, but I didn't know what to do. And so that was like, thank you
for reaching out. I'm so proud of you because women need to realize that it's not even just for you. It's literally to stop. It's put an end to this BS culture that we have. Yep. And so, that's
and our daughter is like, so she's so embodied. There is no part of her, at least from anything that I've ever heard her say or reflect. Her body awareness is just like, she just feels great. Like she feels great in her body. She's like, loves what her body can do. We talk about that. Awesome. We emphasize that. We're learning better about like nourishing better because she's definitely like one of those finicky eater kids. Mm-hmm. But, like it's that to me is the grand prize, if you will, to have an 8-year-old child. When I was 8, I already hated myself. And so to think about the fact that like, that's not her reality at all. That's changing the course of history, you guys. Like our work matters so much because it's not just about us.
Oh God, say that again. Our work matters so much because it's not just about us. I love that because we can be really self-absorbed humans. Let me.
Well, and you know what, Tony? Like it was, I'll be honest, like I hated myself so much in that season that I couldn't really do it for me. So it was actually easier for me to do it for my unborn, unconceived child than it was for myself. And like that, I get that sounds heartbreaking, but it also is like, it was love. And it was love for my future self that I couldn't perceive yet, but I knew that she would exist. And I was willing to walk through that door and to sit in that couch and to do that really, really hard work. And it made all the difference. It really it liberated me and it changed my life. And it helped me to be able to do the work that I do today. And I'm like, I'm legit at it because I know what it feels like to go through that transformation, And so I have clients that will come through, and I imagine you do too, where I'm not going to try to sell you on self-love, babe. I get that is like the worst possible thing I could ask you to do. And we're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. I'm just asking you to like have some compassion for the being that has been with you all the days of your life. And if it's easier to do that for your inner child or the child that you actually gave birth to or will give birth to right now, cool. Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm not going to push you there because I know what that felt like. And I literally want to tell those like kumbaya, like peace, flowers and love people like to go stick it because I was like, self-love, you have your self-love. I have work to do. That's literally how I used to talk, Tony.
Oh my God. No, but it's so true. But and that's why it's hard though. And that's why even when I was just on your podcast before, I needed to emphasize that when you go to my social media page, you would never suspect that I ever hated my body. Yeah, so I probably annoy a lot of people, like not on purpose, but like, we can't control how people perceive you or think, but like, because it's bringing up some stuff for them. But I also understand that part. Totally. And so I've totally have questions. What do I post and how do I post it? Like, and that's why you asked me, like, I've noticed a shift, and it's like, I decided to just like let go of, how other people might perceive me. And I'm just showing up as the way that I am to hopefully inspire the right person. But that's right. I also feel bad. And I know that it might not, it might trigger someone because they might be like, I'm not even close to there. I've never been there. How could you even get there? And just a reminder, exactly what Amber just said, guys, just be compassionate with yourself. Just meet yourself in the middle. You don't need to worry about like getting to the, like,
we know how to do compassion because of the way you love other people in your life.
Yes.
And so cool. Like you can just literally give yourself 1 ounce of that. And that might look like taking a pee break.
Mm-hmm. Or eating food. You were just saying food. Like just be like, I don't think I ate lunch today. Maybe I should sit down.
That was my norm for so long. And some days it still is, but but I do have to still work at that part because my body was so trained to like not need anything. I'm good. Yeah. I'm fine. I can muscle through. I mean, I was a Division I athlete too. So it's like pain. What is pain?
Right.
Oh, that means progress. That means I'm actually doing well. That's some deep programming, right? Yeah. And I think, again, to go back to the question a couple minutes ago, it's like, this is how you start doing the work. You start just noticing these little things about yourself and about how you respond to situations and about the parts of you that feel like some dissonance, because as we grow and expand, there's going to come a point where skipping meals doesn't feel good anymore.
Right.
Where your body's like, yo, I'm hungry. And you don't go to this place of like being mad at yourself. You're like, oh yes, body. Right. Calories. Cause that's what you need to survive. Okay, cool. Let me go get some avocado or something. Okay. I'll be back.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God. This has been so good. I could have you on here forever. I feel like we could do a whole other episode just about like being a Division I athlete and like the pressures in life and like how you, cause now I feel like you're living just I feel like when you think of a Division I athlete, you think of it very like rigid, controlled, because you have to be in order to be successful, right? Yeah. Now you're successful, but like it's a perfect like kind of let's paddle home, because it's like a perfect way to just now see that you're still very successful, just in a different way, and you go about it in a different way. Yeah. Like you are the one
soccer.
Yeah, and you still do the things that you love and you enjoy. But I mean, even like in business and stuff, like the way you've gotten here, it's just it's not through like that masculine energy that honestly, I think most people end up getting to that place and then they switch to feminine. I think you've kind of always because
like, I did it as a mother. So, So like I launched my business when my daughter was 9 months old. And I just knew here's the thing, right? My motherhood has saved me. Like, oof, that could make me just like, oof. Yeah, that's a big one. But here's the thing. I left my job for multiple reasons, but the top of that list was to be with my child and to not miss the moments I couldn't get a replay on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it would be like a complete conflict in my values to then be like, I'm going to work 40 hours a week. Like, I didn't leave my job to go create another job.
Right.
I left my career in collegiate athletics because I was killing myself working 40, 60 hours a week, weekends, nights, all of that, on the heels of being a Division I athlete, on the heels of being an elite level soccer player that traveled all over the world from, 10 onward, essentially, on the heels of being a gymnast when I was 18 months old till I was 6 years. Like, the minute I got here, it was like go mode and achieve. Yeah. And so, I was exhausted, and my maternity leave was the first 3.5 months of my life that I had stopped everything. Literally. It was the first 3.5 months of my life that I had like, couldn't go to work, couldn't exercise. I had a C-section. I almost died during my daughter's birth. Like, oh my God. I was given this huge invitation, Tony, to like pause. And then everything started becoming clear. And it was also equally terrifying because I didn't know how I was going to do any of it. But I knew that something was going to change in my life. And so therefore now, 8 years into my business as of next May, which is like crazy because Ani's age, it's like always correlates with my business's age. And I definitely do not work more than 20 hours a week. That's just not even an option. It's not on the menu. I've built a very successful business financially that, supports my family. And it's because I just decided that's what I was going to do. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's amazing. Your story is just so inspiring. So I hope for whoever's listening, they follow you, they message you, they let you know what they got from this. Let people know where they can find you and connect with you.
Yeah. So you guys can head over to amberlilyestrom.com. The books are there. The podcast is there. I offer, coaching offerings, invitations, things like that are there as well. Blog, everything is there. So that's the hub. And then also I'm on Instagram at amberlilyestrom, and I share lots of quote cards. It's kind of my jam. It's like, I find that like I try to do videos and stuff, but Instagram just doesn't really reward that very much for me. Like Instagram loves my quote cards. So I do a lot of those shareables and things to make you kind of think and ask yourself deeper questions. So I would love to connect with you over on the gram.
Awesome. All right. So I'll put all that in the show notes. Amber, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a good friend. I'm so excited to know you and just to have you in my corner and be in your corner is just so, so awesome. So thank you for being here. For those who are listening, make sure you give Amber a follow. And also, if you are new to the podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button. A new episode comes out every Tuesday and Thursday. And when you're subscribed, you don't miss a beat. As always, this is Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.